Hi folks, it's Monday Motivation, and this week's Monday Motivation was inspired by a speech that I gave this past week for a travel company. They wanted me to talk about traveling with purpose, and it really got me thinking about my first trip to Kenya and how that whole journey changed the entire course of my life. And the question that I get more often than not after a speech is, how do I make a difference? Where do I start? What do I do to get started? So I want to share a little bit of my journey and then what I think is the best way to go about doing that. 12 years ago, I'm living in Phoenix, Arizona in the United States. I graduated from university and I'd gotten out into the quote unquote real world, and I had a hard time finding a job. I initially found a job in retail and then eventually found a job answering phones for a salon and spa that I ended up doing very well at. And although I was only going to stay there for a few months, I ended up staying there for quite a few years. And I was one of their operations directors. Now, this job gave me the North American dream, but it didn't light that fire inside of me, and I really enjoyed the people that I worked with, but I wasn't excited to go to work every day for the actual job itself. And for me, it took me a long time to articulate that I was looking for a job that not only paid well, but made the world a better place. And then once I knew that's what I wanted, I didn't know how to find that. But it was in December of 2007 that a good friend of mine called and invited me to go on a volunteer trip with We to help build a school in Kenya. Now, initially, I was like, have you lost your mind? I'm like, no, I'm not going to Kenya. I'm 2'7" tall, so I'm pretty sure that's a snack to half the animals in Kenya, and I don't want to be Meals on Wheels, thank you. And I hung up the phone. But I started to really think about that trip, and through some guidance from my friends and family, I decided to go to Kenya because I thought if anything is ever going to change, I'm going to need to step outside of my comfort zone and break the pattern. Do something different than what I'd normally been doing. So March 2008, I went to Kenya. And I say this all the time, and I mean it because it's so cliche, but I don't have another way to describe the journey. That trip truly was life-changing. I learned about the work We was doing, and you can research that on your own, but the moment that changed everything for me is when we went to a community welcoming to help open a new school at one of the new classrooms, and literally 200 kids came running out and they circled around me and they wanted to give me a tour of their school, and then they wanted to sit in the grass, they wanted to ask me questions, so we had someone translate. So we sat in the grass, asked me literally every question under the sun to get to know me. Where was I from? How did I get here? What was my profession? Did I have any siblings? Am I a doctor? All those things. And after I answered all their questions, a young girl raised her hand. She looked at me, and in Swahili, she said, "Sikuja hiyo kitu. Ingefanyika wazungu pia." And when that was translated into English, she said, "I didn't know that this sort of thing, meaning the loss of my legs, could also happen to white people too." Now, to be very candid, I don't fully know exactly what she meant by that. If we unpack it based on what I thought she meant, was that after seeing me, she realized, oh, even people in North America also have struggles. I don't know if that's exactly what she meant, because, we finished that conversation, we left right afterwards, and I wasn't thinking at the time, remember her name, remember who she is, because this moment's going to change her life forever. I wasn't thinking about that. And it wasn't until later when I reflected, I realized, oh my gosh, wow, this one little girl helped me realize how I could use my story to empower other people to look at challenges differently, but more importantly, hopefully to empower people to get involved with something that they were passionate about. But the piece that is so important to this story is that I had to step outside of my comfort zone and try something different and new and disrupt the pattern. And that's when everything changed for me. And when I came back to North America, I thought, man, I can't go back to my normal life. So I applied for a job at We a few months later, packed up my entire life, and moved to Toronto, where I've been living for the last 10 years as a motivational speaker and ambassador for We. So for today's Monday Motivation, if you are finding yourself in that place where you're not happy with where you are, you want to make a difference in some way, you want to make a change, whether that's in your professional life, your personal life, relationship, whatever that looks like, you have to step outside of your comfort zone and break the pattern and do something different. You'll never know where it's going to lead. And I would love to hear in the comments below some of the ways that y'all have stepped outside of your comfort zone and it's taken you on a different journey. If you have the means and the ability to travel, I highly recommend it. But you don't have to travel. You can start to break outside of your comfort zone in small ways in your own community and in your own life. Maybe volunteering for something you've never volunteered before, or going to a lecture that you've never been before, or taking up a hobby that you have always wanted to but haven't done yet. Use this week to step outside of your comfort zone. And again, tell me in the comments below some of the things that you've done before or even after you've watched this video to step outside of your comfort zone. All right, Happy Monday.